Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for your time. This is a pleasure and an honor to have you. And this is going to be a very loose conversation. It's going to be, a fun conversation. I am the CEO of Íñigo Learning, and I actually write for IDIPE, one of the largest associations of Spain in HR. And I'm honored to have you as a major global CHRO, as a woman from Uruguay, originally from Uruguay, Latina, like us. And I want to have a fun discussion. Your career is impressive, very impressive. You've been 20 years in the HR field. You've been the CHRO for the Washington Nationals, the baseball club. You have been the CHRO for CHRO, where we both work together there. You have been awarded in 2022 as one of the top women leaders in the industry. And you have an amazing role now with Carnival Cruises, one of the largest cruise lines in the world. Now, let's go back, in time. 2019, the global pandemic hit us, and the first thing that shuts down is the tourism industry. The United States is a major tourism superpower. Spain is another major superpower that lives on tourism, and they got directly hit by the pandemic. So what happens there? 2019, everything shuts down, the cruises stop, people start getting COVID. And what does Bettina do in that role?
Well, thank you, Íñigo, and it is a pleasure to be with you today after so many years and to have a reunion since our days at CHRO. So thank you for this opportunity. And, I was actually looking forward to our time together today. So I actually joined Carnival Cruise Line in June of 2019. 2019, to put things in perspective, was the best year on record for Carnival Cruise Line, who actually turned 50 in 2022. So coming into a brand new industry, the cruise industry, which is probably one of the most complex, because when you're talking about cruises, you're talking about hotel, culinary, entertainment, travel, excursions, new builds. There's so many different industries within the industry. And coming in June of 2019, it was really daunting because I took a lot of pride on the fact that I had very unique job opportunities in the past, working for a baseball team, working for a city, working for CHRO. And I just thought that I was prepared to transition well into this industry. And, it took me a little while to settle in. And I realized that, this was just completely different. And, there are many times where I think I suffered from the imposter syndrome, where you really question your own abilities and you think, did I really make the right decision? And 2019 was also a very difficult year for me on a personal level, because having moved to Miami from the Northeast, where I lived for 28 years, a few months into the job, I lost my dad, then I lost my stepdad, then my middle son joined the Army. So things weren't going well. And, looking back, I can say with certainty that it was probably one of the most difficult times in my life. Wow. And, I dealt with some, even mental health issues, when you have that level of loss, and then combined with the job and the magnitude of the job. So when COVID hit, and back to your question, for me was the greatest opportunity, because as devastating as it was to our industry, which was probably the cruise industry was the most negatively impacted industry in the world. We were basically stopped for 22 months. We couldn't operate. We have ships floating in the ocean with many minimum manning on them. We had to expatriate over 40,000 crew members to their countries. We had people from 152 different nationalities. And, it's really what brought me and HR to be at the center of every discussion. So I went from not really understanding how I could contribute to this industry to being at the center of every discussion. And, in HR, we often say it's all about having a seat at the table. Well, HR was the table because everything was about what do we do with our employees? What are the benefits that we need to look into, the ever evolving legal landscape. We had to downsize, we had to adapt, we had to evolve in so many different ways. And then as difficult as the pause was, returning 22 months later and having to basically open a whole new operation every month and doing that for a whole year, was even more difficult than the actual pause. So it really provided me with on a personal side, the destruction that I needed to get out of the funk that I was. And then on a professional level, it really helped my career to pivot by bringing so much relevance to everything that we did because, people were first and foremost priority.
So it was going like from being bankrupt to becoming a startup almost, right? That's incredible. That's amazing. So one of the things I'm really curious, because we always talk about great things with leaders, but I want to talk about, you've been super vulnerable, and thank you for that just from the beginning. People are afraid of making mistakes, and especially in our culture, the Latino culture, the Hispanic culture, we are, super afraid of mistake, the word failure. Now, what is one of the biggest mistakes you've made in the last 12 months, and what do you learn from it?
Oh my God, I've made so many mistakes. And, I always think that in life, if you're able to get to a point when you look back and you say, I had to go through all of that to be where I am today. Mm-hmm. And the second part of the question, it was worth it. Then that you're taking the right path. And my path has a lot of upsides and downturns and derailments. And, I made a lot of mistakes earlier in my career that really helped me build the humility that is needed, to be successful in this role. I came in without, any shipboard experience. I really wasn't familiar with cruises. I had only done one cruise with my family many years back, and it wasn't a great experience. So for me coming in, it was clear that I had to learn and I had to understand and I had to do a lot of listening. But, specifically, I can cite a job that I had at CHRO at a specific mistake that I made. And the mistake was that there, I had a position that was available. It would have been a promotion for the existing team. And there was one candidate that really qualified. She was really a remarkable individual, had the experience, really, really smart, but had some issues at home that sometimes, it presented challenges for her in managing her schedule. So I decided based on that I was going to go and recruit somebody from the outside. And I regret that to today.
That's a common mistake that I've seen it over and over again, that we look outside and we have the best people. And sometimes, that's why I always say your personal life, you always bring it to work. See, everything is interconnected. So maybe we don't pay attention.
Yeah. And I felt that, the learning for me was, I know what it took for me to get to where I am today, and it took a lot of sacrifice and prioritizing my job over my family, really dedicating myself to a point that is not sustainable. And I'm the type of person that believes that now, based on where I am, it is my responsibility to make it better to the next generation. And I see a lot of women and a lot of minorities that have taken the same challenging, difficult path, only to believe that everybody else has to go through the same pain. So that's where I'm very different today than I was 10, 15 years ago, where I believe that, somebody should be able to enjoy work-life balance, that just because you're a mother, or a woman, you shouldn't have to give up on being a good parent at the cost of, progressing in your career. You should have the same opportunities afforded to men or anyone else. So I put a lot of focus on that, but I think that, that was a pivotal moment for me, because I had to go through that mistake to learn the lessons that it taught me and to bring that into the person that I am today.
Thank you for that. I know you run also as a major global CHRO, you also are in charge of the DEI initiatives. There's a huge discussion in the United States, started 4 or 5 years ago after the incidents that we have with George Floyd and everything. But you're in an industry that it's 150 people, it's people from 150 nationalities. So you completely embrace diversity. What do what advice would you give HR professionals, particularly in Spain, because we're talking with the magazine in Spain, right? But why is important diversity?
Yeah, and we often talk about diversity and what makes us different. And, we talk about the business case of diversity, which has been proven over and over and over again. In the cruise industry is very interesting, because although we're very rich in our diversity, 152 nationalities alone, that brings a lot of diversity. But doesn't mean that we're inclusive, right? Doesn't mean that people, from X countries have the same opportunities as other individuals. So that was one of the priorities that we focus on, that just because you were from a specific country didn't mean that you were going to have a career in housekeeping, or if you're from a European country that you're going to be in management. So for us, we put a lot of measures in place. We brought in a very transparent promotion process to allow individuals to transfer into other departments so they can change the paradigm and really be transformative. For us in the cruise industry, it's not just about nationality, it's gender. We still don't have a female captain. We still don't have a female chief engineer on our ships. So gender is something that we're really focusing in. And, I love this work because, when I talk to our female officers, and we have a few that are on track to become a captain, and the way they look at it is, we don't want to be the first female captain. We want to be the best captain at the time we're selected to be captains. And that's because we're really embedding DEI into all that we do, and it's becoming more and more organic and more celebrated. And I'm very proud of the progress that we have made in terms of our nationalities and gender.
I love that. That's a very good way to put it, because I don't think diversity has to be enforced. It has to be organic. Absolutely, I agree with you. What is one lesson learned being a Latina woman in the United States in a major corporation in the C-suite? Because you're in the C-suite. Let's talk, reality. What is something that you've learned and older women can follow through and can follow you?
I used to worry about my children because I thought, they have grown up in such a different environment. They live in a world of privilege. And will they be able to develop the grit and the resiliency and the strength that you need to excel in life? And so I look at my background, my humble beginnings, the fact that I'm a woman, the fact that I'm an immigrant, the fact that I'm Hispanic, as a gift. I don't see it as a handicap. I see it as fundamental to what I needed to become the person that I am today. And I do believe that I have built that muscle, the resiliency muscle, more than anything. And, you know, Uruguayans, we usually are proud of our charrúa heritage, where you hear in soccer. And what it means is we don't give up, and we fight to the death, and we will get there one way or another. And I think I carried that with me. And so I don't think I would be where I am today if I didn't have as many challenges as a struggle because of being a woman, because of being a mother, because of being an immigrant. So I think it would have been completely different experience.
Wow. While you were saying about the resilience and the charrúas, I was thinking of the survivals of the plane, you know, 20 years ago.
Yes.
In the Andes. They were Uruguayan, the Uruguayan team.
Yes.
One last thought, one last recommendation would you give HR professionals in Spain to really embrace being at the table, being the table, not being at the table, being the table, right? You went through that tremendous situation in at the beginning of 2020, and you were just in the role. So what is one thing they should do?
I think the most important aspect of any job is to really build trust and credibility by adding value. If you come in with the HR hat and, you know, I'm HR, you know, you're not HR. You're a business professional that has an expertise in HR. So you can talk on behalf of what's relevant to HR. But I think, you know, for today's HR leaders to be successful, they really need to transition into more of a business mindset. They need to prove the case of adding value by forging those meaningful relationships with their business colleagues. I would have never, you know, made it to where I am today. And, you know, a year ago, I was promoted into the corporate role. So now I am overseeing all 9 brands across the world. And, you know, and my number one goal at the time was to really elevate HR by creating that sense of, you know, she has credibility, she adds value to all that we do. We have somebody that cares about our people. And I think, you know, I think the last few years, we have been taking the human out of the equation. And I think what's more important today, more than ever, is to really infuse, you know, the caring, the humility, the servant leader approach that is needed.
100% agree with you. I think it's about caring. HR as a profession is about the people, not the company itself, because they're going to give you results if you care about the people, right? And that's what one of my favorite leaders, Richard Branson, always says. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm privileged and honored to have you. Any last thought? Any last thing that you want to say? Maybe in Spanish if you want to.
No, me gustaría decirle a todos los que están escuchando que todo empieza creyendo en uno mismo y siendo auténtico en lo que uno siente y lo que demuestra a través de las relaciones humanas que tenemos y el impacto que podamos tener en influir el progreso de las personas con las que trabajamos. I think HR continues to be such a beautiful profession because we have such an opportunity to really grow and develop our people and to maximize the talent, which not only the organization benefits, but also the individuals benefit. So, you know, we may have some challenges ahead, and there are times where, you know, we come to work and we think, wow, you know, I can't believe that I'm dealing with this. But we cannot forget how rewarding this profession can be when you look through the lens of the lives that we get to transform.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.